be seated. Welcome. Good morning to you all. You've joined us on this beautiful sunny day to take part in Emerson School's graduation exercises, our opportunity to come together to celebrate the achievements of the class of 2018. Let us begin the day by welcoming our assembled guests and our community members. First, I wish to extend a warm welcome to all of our faculty, staff, and administration. It is a most joyful thing that we may all gather together to give our best wishes to our soon-to-be graduates. So many of our teachers have had the opportunity to observe our students grow and develop over the years. Teachers and staff were there at their first days when they arrived, and today we are here once again as they prepare to depart. Next, I welcome our band and our orchestra members, and I wish to give thanks for performing in today's ceremony. A special thank you to our directors, Michelle Borton, Leslie Capizzoli, for both leading our students and developing such an outstanding instrumental music program here at Emerson. We are enriched by their accompaniment here today. I also wish to extend a greeting to our Board of Trustees. This august body has the explicit charge of ensuring the institution's long-term success. They volunteer much of themselves to achieve this goal, and I wish to thank them for their incredible service. I welcome you, our parents and our family members. You have given so much of yourselves to make it possible for these students to be here today. You have woken up early, you have stayed up late, maybe even last night. You've driven many miles, supported many auctions and annual funds, sat in conferences with teachers, volunteered for our programs and events, and most importantly, developed a strong partnership with us, all for the benefit of your children. So please take a moment today both to reflect upon your children's achievements as well as celebrate a successful conclusion to all your hard work. They have made it, and so have you. Finally, I welcome you, the graduating class. On the first day of school back in September, we met to discuss the year that lay ahead, and I shared with our 8th graders 2 truisms. First, I said that the 8th grade year would be the quickest year that they had ever experienced. And I don't know if you all believed me then, but I'm wondering if you might believe me now. And second, I said that the eyes of the entire school would be upon them. You represent our most senior students. All of our children, from kindergarten on up, have looked to you to determine what is right and what is good. Today marks your transition. You will leave us as graduates and begin as first-year students once again. You join your new schools, whether they be public, independent, parochial, and in most cases, you're going to be entering these schools at the beginning grade as the youngest students. You get to be new again. You will be the ones looking up to the upper-level students. And as you look to them, I encourage you to retain your sense of true north, to hold steady to your compasses that you have gained here at Emerson. Our teachers have sought not just to educate you, but to help you develop into upright and outstanding young men and women. Do not lose those bearings. So before we begin today's ceremonies, I do wish to give particular recognition to our lifers, those students who have attended Emerson since their kindergarten year. This makes 9 continuous years of attendance, which is perhaps the longest tenure a student may have in any educational institution. By our count, there are 14 8th graders and their families that have been with us since kindergarten, which is about a quarter of the graduating class. So may I take this moment now to ask both our lifers and their families to rise and be recognized with a round of applause. Please rise. Class of 2018, in many ways, I really think of you as being my own class. A number of you began your tenure here at Emerson as 6th graders in 2015, which is the same year that I came as head of school. And when I accompanied you on that Ohio trip back at the end of 6th grade, that bond was strengthened. It was. But when I first arrived, I hadn't yet learned who the new 6th graders were and those who had been returning students or lifers. And therefore, I assumed that all of you knew much, much more than perhaps you actually did about Emerson. And I suppose that there's a little bit of irony here, because it's quite possible that many of you thought that I knew much more about Emerson than I really did. But you and I, we have come far since then. We've all learned much more as you progress through the middle school years. This recently culminated in our 8th grade class trip to the Florida Keys, which I had the pleasure of accompanying you on just this past week as a chaperone. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to share one story, just one, from this trip that has cemented in my mind your growth as a class and what we as a faculty have sought to develop in you. So every year, our 8th graders take a week-long class trip to the Florida Keys as a final joyful gathering and an opportunity to learn about this unique ecosystem. Our students snorkeled, explored the Everglades, kayaked, visited a turtle hospital, and in the quiet moments, they played hearts, they swam in the pool, or just hung out with each other and enjoyed each other's company. And all in all, it was truly a wonderful trip, thanks in great part to Bill Wood's excellent leadership and organization, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have gotten to take part in this trip. The end of the trip, as I think most of the audience already knows, did not exactly go quite as planned. So for those in the audience that do not know, Thursday was our last day planned, so we got up extra early to clean the rooms, get everything ready to go. We left the Keys, we went to take a short hike in the Everglades, and, you know, a couple deer fly here and there, maybe a little shorter than we thought, but it was all right. It was pretty good. Get back on the bus, drive another 90 minutes north. We get to head to a water park where I think you all had about a luxurious 45 minutes getting to slide down the slides before the rain came and we all scattered for the pavilions. So kind of a bummer. That was a little shorter than we thought it would be, but you know, final activity finished maybe a bit early. We head back on the bus, drive over to the airport, plenty of time for our 9 o'clock departure. First sign of trouble, we get the text alert. They've moved the flight back to 11:45 that evening. You know, just sort of a groan. You think you're just coming to the end of something and then it extends a little later, but that's all right, that's all right. A little bit later, we get a happier text alert that says, no, your 9 o'clock is not now 11:45, now it's 10 o'clock at night. Okay, all right, we can accept 10 o'clock. Yeah, that never came. So we're there in the terminal, and at 9 o'clock we're noticing there's no plane actually there for us to board just about now. So at 9, when we should have been leaving, we hear that dreadful call over the terminal speakers, "Our flight has been canceled." Chaperones quickly make their way into the help desk line to learn what our fate would be, see if arrangements would be made by JetBlue. As we approach the front of the line, we hear passenger after passenger being told, "We're sorry, it's a weather cancellation. We will not be providing any assistance." How are we going to get over 60 of us, students and chaperones, settled for the evening? But to JetBlue's credit, and I must credit them, they came through and they very quietly arranged for us to have hotel rooms, food vouchers, a new flight the next afternoon at 4 p.m. Ended up being 6, but okay, we'll let that pass. So it's maybe 10:30 at night, and we are just getting fleet after shuttle van and Uber and Lyft to get everybody over to the hotel. We all ended up there sometime around midnight, I want to say. I arrived with the last group to the hotel, just as Bill Wood is diligently assigning students to the rooms. And anyone that has run a class trip for middle school knows students care a great deal about who they get housed with, even if it is the middle of the night. And so because of the rooms that we got and the number and the capacity and all of that, we couldn't just do a repeat of what we did in the Keys. We had to reassign, we had to reshuffle, we had to do all of that. So I arrived with the final group, just as Bill is asking who in that group would volunteer to switch from a room. We were tired, we were hot, it was late, Kind of bummed that our joyful trip had this thing going on. We were all ready to go home. And there were all sorts of reasons that we could have been cranky about this, both chaperones and students alike. But at this moment, about 12:30 at night, I watched one of our 8th graders raise his hand when the call went out, who would move rooms, and that student raised his hand and said, "I volunteer." Actually, what he said is, "I volunteer as tribute," which I believe is a quote from Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games series, but beside the point. Here at this moment of exhaustion, in this late hour of the evening, a student steps up. And this selfless act was indicative of the overall spirit and thoughtfulness of the entire 8th grade trip. It is simple to be thoughtful when things are easy. It is much, much harder to do in times when things feel more adverse. This act brought to my mind a Latin motto: non sibi sed aliis. Non sibi sed aliis. Not for oneself, but for others. We prepare our students not just to help them develop to be the best students that they can be, but to prepare them to take action for the benefit of all. Not just to be good, but to do good. Or to use another Latin motto, acta non verba, deeds, not words. This 8th grader and all our 8th graders made a choice. They chose to stay positive and support each other, and this made all the difference from what would have been an utterly miserable experience at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport to merely a slightly longer class trip than we expected. They followed the words of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius to shrug it all off and wipe it clean, every annoyance and distraction, and to reach utter stillness. So many of our 8th graders saw the chaperone sweating through the details, trying to figure out what was going on, and they came up to Bill, they came up to me, they came up to all of us, specifically to thank us for the hard work we were doing and to help us achieve what we needed to achieve. Class of 2018. I do not think you will forget your trip or our unexpected extension thereof it. But please also do not forget how you held yourselves or how you acted. This is perhaps the most shining example of how our teachers have expended their time and effort to prepare you for the world. So when the occasion comes at that next school, wherever you should be, raise your hand. Be the example. Yes, volunteer as tribute. Class of 2018, I wish you great success next year and in the years to come. Please remember Emerson, your alma mater, and come back and visit us soon. Godspeed to you, class of 2018. At this time, I wish to welcome to the stage the chair of the Emerson Board of Trustees, Jennifer Pinto.
Good morning. Thank you, John. What an honor and a privilege it is to not only serve as a trustee to speak with, but to have the opportunity to speak with you this morning. Commencement is a time that naturally calls for reflection. When I look back on the Emerson graduations in our family, my daughter Allison's was in the gym on folding chairs without air conditioning, while Joey was in the first class to graduate in this space, comfortable chairs and air conditioning. Big improvement. The big reveal in the gym ceremony was walking under the balloon arches by Lenny and Bill's office. For me, these memories invoke both gratitude and change. Graduates, I'm sure you would agree, there are a lot of people in this room that we are thankful for. Let's start with the incredible teachers and staff that work day in and day out to nurture and educate our students with skill and compassion. Thank you to the parents, families, and friends that support and guide their children through the trials and tribulations of growing up. to Mr. Huber, Mr. Zimmer, and Betham, and the rest of the administration for their passion and always keeping the interest of the students front and center. To my fellow and former trustees who willingly give of their time and talent to guide the school, and to the many volunteers and donors that allow Emerson to flourish in so many ways. It is a choice to join this community, and I am so grateful that you have put your trust in Emerson and for your continued support. So graduates, today's the big day, summer vacation and graduation. If tradition holds, later today there will be a party where you'll celebrate with your parents and your classmates. It's the final chapter, and beyond it, something new. In thinking about what I would say today, I went back to this time in my own kids' lives. Similarly to graduating in the AIC instead of the gym, they knew change was coming, but with it, a journey filled with exciting opportunities. I can say without a doubt, and Mr. Huber affirmed that just a few minutes ago, that they were ready to seize those opportunities, and you also are ready. You're ready for high school. Is it going to be scary? At times. Is it going to surprise you? In so many ways. Is it going to challenge you? I hope so. Your journey will be different than the person sitting next to you, and it should. It's yours. You've been given a great foundation, a truly excellent experience to draw upon as you meet these new challenges. You will each have the opportunity to explore classes and clubs and teams. Go do it. Go see what interests you. Explore new things. Listen to your heart and then follow your path. I tell a story about my daughter's freshman advisor in high school, who was a science teacher. When they were talking about what classes to take the next year, she was told, do what you love and you will end up on the right path. I was expecting a list, English 2, Math X, Science Y, so it was a little frustrating to get this wishy-washy bit of advice. But in hindsight, that message was important. In order to know what interests you, what inspires you, you need to listen to yourself. High school is a time for this. By doing what you love, you become your genuine self, and what can be better than that? Since I could, I asked my kids, what kind of advice would you have wanted at your 8th grade graduation? Now having some perspective. And here's what they said. It's hard to make friends when you're not yourself, so put yourself out there. Grades aren't all that matter, but they're important. Don't be afraid to ask where something is. Make sure you like how you're spending your time and who you're spending your time with. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Actually try new things. If you're an athlete, don't just try a new sport. You may find you have a passion for something else. Don't think you should know how to do it all. And finally, stay curious. Ask questions. I would also add, be kind to yourself. So as you begin this next journey, remember, there is no right way. There's only your way. Trust yourself and know that you're ready. In the meantime, have a wonderful summer, be safe, enjoy your party, and before the day is out, take the time to thank your parents for sending you to Emerson. Congratulations, graduates.
some years I feel like I don't even need to give any sort of talk. We just could run that on repeat for the next hour and a half, and that would be wonderful. Well, we now welcome to our stage our graduation speaker. Eddie Van Riper officially serves as our middle school math teacher. In reality, of course, he holds many, many more roles than that. He is our jack of all trades in the instrumental arts. He supports our band, our orchestra, our musical programs in countless ways, ensuring that our performances go off without a hitch. Outside of Emerson, many of you know that Eddie is a leader in his own right as musical director of Young People's Theater. His talents are multifaceted, and I honestly believe that if we just lock him in a room, give him a brand new musical instrument that he's never played before, 24 hours to tinker with it, he would be concert ready the next day. He comes with a unique perspective as a faculty member, as he is also an Emerson graduate, class of 2002. And Eddie, I believe we were digging around to see if we could find your baby photo so that we could put that up there as well. So we're delighted to welcome Eddie to the stage. Eddie.
Well, thank you, Mr. Huber, and good morning, everybody. Great minds think alike, so I think we'll hear some similar themes from Jen this morning. But thanks very much, and congratulations, class of 2018, on your graduation. I was asked to speak to you today, like he said, because I am a teacher as well as an alum, and I think I'm the only one to hold that distinction around here. So I was once sitting where you are today, almost. I was in the hot gym on bleachers, and all of you would have been on bleachers as well, so we can all be thankful for air conditioning and cushions. Thinking about how Emerson was before the AIC may seem like ancient history, but I'm really not that old. A lot of your experience and mine is quite similar, including several of the teachers we had along the way. Teachers who will, no doubt, remember your class more fondly than they remember mine. But more on that later. Like many of you will in a few minutes, I'd just like to share a few memories of my time at Emerson as a student, and then try to offer a few reflections on the long-term impact that Emerson's had on my life, and I hope it will have on yours. So a few things I remember are being a second grader in Ruth Wilson's class when our classroom was beset by wasps. Ruth, with a class full of 7- and 8-year-olds, rather than requesting any assistance in the form of pesticides or fly swatters, removed her shoe and hurled it across the room at the wasp. 22 years later, I remember vividly seeing the dead wasp on the floor next to the shoe. I remember having band in the old double-wide portable right about here. I remember performing our musicals at the old Chelsea High School. I remember having concerts in the gym. And I remember our trips to Cedar Point, and I was a roller coaster wimp back then too. I remember Tim Wilson showing up to school some mornings carrying various specimens of roadkill that he had picked up along the way, and proceeding to dissect them for the benefit of the class. I remember playing, and I might add winning, soccer and basketball tournaments on the field out there and in the gym. I remember our class trips to DC and to Florida, which went totally smoothly with no flight delays or cancellations. Is it too soon? And perhaps most infamously, here we go, I remember one inauspicious day in science class when we dissected daffodils. Then, the majority of my class proceeded to eat said daffodils off of the dissection trays. You've seen those, right? I might add that daffodils are toxic. The school had to call poison control and sent home anyone who ate the flowers. At our graduation, the teachers presented our whole class with plastic daffodils as we walked across the graduation stage. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find any class with as unenviable a legacy as that. And now for a few things I've reflected on in the years since being a student, and I've summed it up in 3 takeaways. And the first is to be thankful. First and foremost, be thankful to your parents. For you and I to attend school here, our parents first had to place a high value on our education. They had to work hard. They had to make sacrifices, both financially and otherwise, to send us here for years. It was hard for me to comprehend that sacrifice before I had my own bills to pay, but nonetheless, be sure you thank your parents and the people who sacrificed for you, and thank them often. Be thankful to your teachers, the ones you liked, the ones you tolerated, and the ones you didn't see eye to eye with. Each of them helped you to have an experience here, and each of them taught you something valuable. And thirdly, be thankful for each other. The people sitting around you right now are an irreplaceable part of your time here at Emerson. Look around for a moment. Think about the time you've spent, think about the friends you've made and the memories you've made, and the classes you've survived together. This is probably the last time you will all be in one room, so take a moment to savor it. And secondly, be curious. For me, the single most important thing you can take away from Emerson is the ability and the inclination to approach the world with open-minded curiosity and critical thinking. Like I said on the first day of my class, and several days thereafter, math isn't about repeating a prescribed set of steps, nor is it about memorization or regurgitation. Rather, it's about building a valuable skill set that you will use every day of your life to recognize a problem, to approach it with care and discernment, and to work persistently towards a solution. The world today needs people who won't simply accept the most convenient explanation, who understand that thinking thoroughly is better than thinking quickly, and who are willing to take an education and inquiry seriously. I hope that you will all carry this attitude forward into your continuing education and eventually into your careers. And thirdly, be confident. Like many of you, this was the only school I knew through 8th grade. It's easy to take what you have for granted and to assume that your experience is everyone's experience. It took me quite some time to really be able to articulate what I had here. I liked my classes. I had good teachers. I had the opportunity to participate in athletics and in music. I was challenged, I was supported, and for the record, I did not eat the daffodils. The real value in Emerson, for me, was the safety it afforded me to experience a wide variety of activities until I found those that resonated with me the most. To wit, my experience in the Emerson music program is the single most significant reason why I pursued music in my adult life. If you know me, then you know how important that is to me today. Having worked with many of you in band, orchestra, and theater, and having seen other talents of yours in other disciplines, I know that many of you are far more accomplished than I was in 8th grade, and would no doubt have been successful at any school. But maybe some of you, like me, needed this environment and now have the confidence to carry on. I hope that parts of my experience ring true for you, and that as you move on, you can begin to reflect and recognize your strengths and the people who helped cultivate them. Be confident because you've been taught well, but more importantly, be confident because you've learned how to learn, and you've learned the importance of doing so. Thinking back to my experience sitting in the hot gym, this is a major upgrade, but I felt the same way that many of you do right now. You're excited for high school, you're sad to leave your friends, you're disbelieving that your time is over here, and you're anxious to get the heck out and get started with summer vacation. All of us here at Emerson will look forward to seeing you and hearing about your future endeavors. And I, for one, will be waiting with bated breath to see if any of you can come back and draw a perfect dotted line. It's been my pleasure to be a small part of your educational experience here. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you on your last day. Be thankful, be confident, be curious. Congratulations and good luck. It's my pleasure to introduce our first student speaker, Alexander Bauer.
Good morning, peers, teachers, and parents. I've come on this stage today, even though it's quite scary, to recognize the people that have helped me throughout my education. First, I'd like to thank my peers. Everyone in this school has been amazing to me since I came here in 3rd grade. I've made friends that are irreplaceable and will last my whole life. Everyone in this school has been amazing to me since the day I came here. Next, I'd like to thank my teachers. Every single one of them have done everything they could to teach me, and they have been truly amazing. The education I've received here has been fantastic. I'd especially like to thank Lenny Dale. He has gone above and beyond with his job as a gym teacher. Last but not least, I'd like to thank my family. They woke me up early, drove me to school, and helped me with my homework. My family has always supported me throughout my education. Now, as I wrap up, I'd like to recognize Emerson itself. Emerson has the best community I've ever experienced. From the teachers to the students, I have had the best time possible here. Thank you, and now I'd like to introduce my good friend Zoe Beekman.
It's so
feels strange being up here. Just a few years ago, I was in the audience, watching, thinking that there was no way I could be up on that stage. But yet, here we are. I started at Emerson School in fall of 2009. It was my first day of kindergarten, and I was so excited to learn, excited to meet new friends, and excited to sit at a desk, just like people did in college. We didn't do that, but I still had fun. I was placed with Sig in her bright and shining classroom. We drew, we played grocery store, we did math. Kindergarten was great, and so was every year here as I continued at Emerson. I loved becoming a marine biologist with Jill and Jennifer, as well as writing poetry and learning about orangutans with Ruth. There was a first year of actual homework with Miss Swiss, and then learning about the monarch butterfly migration with Sue Addy. Finally, in 5th grade, my last year at elementary school, we drew, went on awesome field trips, and learned a lot about nature in Connie's class. I remember the music classes in the old portable, the art room filled with paint and messy kids, the science room and the experiments we did, not to mention watching Bill Nye, the Science Guy, every time we had a sub, and even if we didn't. So elementary school at Emerson was great, but middle school was great too. 6th grade was tough. We had a lot more homework, a lot more responsibilities, but we also had our parents and our teachers helping us. We learned pre-algebra with Mr. Lee, all about the colonies and the beginning of the USA with Mrs. Delay. We learned about writing and poetry with Mr. Seymour, and about animals, research, and the earth with Tim. 7th grade, we learned a lot, from the bubblegum black market to the quadratic equation. That year was eventful and very fun. Mr. Nolan, Beth, Eddie, and Leslie helped us become better students and dive into what we were learning. Then this year, we built Rube Goldberg machines with Mrs. Kwan, had debates and some very interesting discussions in Carol's classroom. We learned and complained about geometry and trigonometry with Mr. Wood. And Victoria has helped me pack a couple thousand years of history and life lessons into my head. Mrs. Cohen has been an amazing art teacher and has helped me and so many other students further their artwork. Mrs. Moon and the theater troupe productions have always been hilarious, entertaining, and beautifully done every year. The teachers at Emerson were able to take learning things that could be monotonous and boring and turning it into something engaging, exciting, and fun. And as a student, that means the world to me. But the most important thing we have here at Emerson are our friends. I've known some of you since we were 5, some of you even longer. I think that here at Emerson, we have made some true friends, and I hope that in the years to come, I can say that I've been friends with you guys for forever. Thank you to my teachers, my parents, my friends. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Our experience at Emerson has definitely prepared us for the rest of our years at school. As Dr. Seuss said, you have your brains in your head, you have your feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself into any direction you choose. I'd like to introduce my good friend, Kit Belvin.
I'd like to start off by saying that no matter what I say, I will never be able to sum up my experience at Emerson in words. I tried over and over again to write the perfect speech, a speech that summed up every moment, every aspect, every memory of Emerson that I had, but I couldn't. So instead, I'm going to tell a story. And like any good storyteller, I'll start at the beginning. The beginning was only 3 years ago when I started 6th grade. I know that may not sound like that long ago, but it sure feels like it to me. On my first day, I was scared and shy, wary of everyone around me. I was so reluctant to leave my old school, to venture into a new environment and leave my comfort zone, that I barely even spoke at all that day. A few minutes before the first bell rang at 8, I sat down at an empty table in my first class, avoiding my new classmates as much as possible. Having read maybe a few too many books about middle school that past summer, I expected to be ignored, if not bullied, by my peers. You can probably imagine my surprise when the group of kids at the table next to me came over, sat down, and politely introduced themselves. I was stunned at first. Why were these random people talking to me? Since when are middle schoolers nice to the new kid? But I quickly figured out that Emerson was different. Emerson was not the scary place I expected. In fact, it was far from it. And while I'm not sure what kind of picture that story paints of Emerson, if any at all, it felt true to my experience here. Of course, Emerson is so much more than an inclusive community. The teachers I have had have truly inspired me to care about my learning by encouraging me to follow my own passions and interests. These opportunities then allowed me to push myself to do well and to become more motivated. I haven't learned things at Emerson because I memorized facts, but because I was able to understand things using analysis and critical thinking. Because I wasn't chained to this blueprint of standardization, I was able to further comprehend the facts and concepts that make up the backbone of our learning material. Now, I'm still not saying Emerson is perfect, nor am I implying that this method of teaching works for everyone, but overall, this is an amazing school, and if I've learned anything here, it's to value an education this good, and to recognize how privileged I am to even be here. So first of all, I'd like to thank my parents. I somewhat obviously wouldn't be here without you. Also, to my teachers, I have learned so much from all of you, and I can never thank you enough. Lastly, my peers. I mean it when I say I will miss every single one of you. And now I'd like to introduce my good friend, Philip Crum.
Perspective. Perspective changes people. People change perspective. Do you all know the story of the 3 blind men and the elephant? Well, in this story, 3 blind men stumble upon an elephant. One gets the trunk and thinks it's a snake, another gets the leg and thinks it's a tree, and the last gets the tail and thinks it's a rat. Since none of them have all the facts, all the information, or each other's perspectives, they can't agree on what an elephant is. Likewise, from the outside, Emerson is a small, normal school. But we all know that's not the case, right? Emerson is a different place. Emerson's a home away from home. Since we know everybody and everything about this place, we feel comfortable here. When I think of Emerson, my mind wanders to the people here, not the place itself. To get my perspective, I ask you to close your eyes. Think of your house. Think of your parents, guardians, siblings, cousins, whatever comes to mind. To get my perspective, that house is Emerson School. Those parents and guardians are the faculty and staff. And those siblings and cousins are peers. I don't think of the building, I don't think of the homework, I don't think of the classes or the uncomfortable chairs. I think of all of you. I think of my house. I think of my family. So thank you. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for supporting me throughout the years. Thank you, Isabel and Evelyn, for being as helpful as you are annoying. Very annoying. And lastly, thanks to my perfect dog, Xena, for always listening intently and never, ever, ever talking back. I also want to thank the faculty and staff here at Emerson for doing all that you do, which is a lot. And lastly, thank my peers. I wouldn't want y'all any other way. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce my good friend, Olivia Guzman.
For the past 9 years of my life, I've come to various graduations, and until 6th grade, it was in the gym. I will never forget the big balloon arch that went over the gym offices, and everyone sat on the very uncomfortable bleachers or blue mats. Ever since I was young, I told myself that I would write a graduation speech, and I thought that when I wrote it, I would know exactly what to say. I didn't. So I thought I would talk about my most memorable times at Emerson. On kindergarten visit day, we were outside playing, and Mrs. B was watching us. I went up to her and said, "When's lunch? I'm hungry." She replied with, "Hi, hungry, I'm Mrs. B." 5-year-old Olivia thought that that was the worst joke ever and screamed, "That's not funny," and ran away. That was my first memory of Emerson, and I will never forget it. My favorite memory from middle school was probably doing the musical Once on This Island. I did it in my last year here, and it was an experience that I will never forget. I got to play a role that I will most likely never be able to play again, and got to do it with a class that I cherished and loved. My grade specifically was a leader in this newer space because we were the first 6th grade class to use this space for a show. I'm honored to know that I was a part of a class that changed the arts in Emerson forever. I have many other favorite memories like chorus, sponge fights, the Ohio, Florida, DC trip, and raising chickens, and so much more. But I think the best part of Emerson for my memories and for my education, those are the relationships that I have made. I have a relationship with every single person graduating today. A relationship that I will cherish and never forget. Good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but they're always there. I've lived for this quote through middle school and hope to use it as I grow, because I know that all the members of this 2018 graduating class will be there for me wherever I go. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce my good friend, Drew Gottschang.
See if I can find it this time. Okay. Thank you, Olivia. Today, I want to talk about doing right by our community. We do right by serving our community, our nation, and our world. I do this by raising the flags every morning without question. I've not once let them touch the ground. It took me a while to learn to do this, but we are all learners, yet we are all teachers at the same time. We teach and learn from each other. We all need to learn. Emerson has been the biggest learning experience of my life, thanks to all my teachers, peers, parents, and this wonderful learning environment. Now, life hasn't always been the best, and it never will be. We all have our ups and downs, but we are all learners, and everyone here is here to help you. So I say unto you, yes, school is hard, and yes, school will challenge you to reach your full potential, and yes, there will not always be pizza for lunch on Fridays for the rest of your life, but look around. Everyone around you is here to help you and guide you through the challenges of life. I'm sure we all have and or will not ask for help at least once in our lives, but we all make mistakes. That's how we learn. There are bad people who hurt others for fun, and there are good people who do it by accident. This is one of my favorite quotes. At Emerson, I've been surrounded by the good people. You are all the most kind, welcoming, loving community I've ever been in. And when you make a mistake, just get back up, fix it, and move on. Because remember, none of you are bad people. You are just good people learning. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce my friend Lydia Hall.
Hi there. So my name is Lydia Hall, and I'm an 8th grader, soon to be an alum. So thank you so much, Drew, for that introduction. So why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do homework and go out of our way to do things? Because the person who works hard is the person who's going to rise up and get noticed. And that person who fought, worked hard, succeeded, and never gave up gets to live the rest of their life knowing that they were the one that always did a little more. And personally, I think that Emerson is a place that creates and fuels people like this. So aside from that, I have some people I need to mention. 2 people that I think really impacted my years here at Emerson that I want to mention are Dawson Mercer and Tushar Chaudhary. I honestly could not have asked for better friends, and thank you to everyone else in our school for being such a great friend to me. They're so funny, and I'm always happy with you. I'm so blessed to have you in my life. I also want to thank every parent and relative in the audience here today. You supported us, were always there looking out for us, and always taught us to be the best we can be. Then, of course, there are the teachers that I could not have gone through Emerson without. And trust me, if I could put everyone in here, I definitely would. But I do have a 2-minute time slot, so. But I had Carol this year for language arts, and I knew from the first class that I had with her, I loved her teaching style. And from that moment on, I continued to have an awesome year with her. Lenny was my gym teacher for about 7 years. I wanted to put him in here because Lenny is one of those amazing people who has one job as a gym teacher or something else, but does so much more than that. He comes to every single orchestra, band concert, track meet, soccer game, volleyball, basketball tournament, or anything in between, just to help out and support us. He's such a dedicated person to everyone at Emerson, and we're so grateful to have him here. Miss Kime was my 5th grade teacher in lower school. I came in completely unorganized and scared, scared, but she worked her magic and taught me how to use a planner, note cards, calendars, and so much more. Now she works as the lower school director. Ruth Wilson is one of my favorite people. She was my second grade teacher. She's such a wonderful, fun person, and she puts an instant smile on anyone's face. One thing in particular I want to thank her for is when I was in second grade, Ruth noticed that I was struggling in math. After she informed my parents, I was diagnosed with dyscalculia. If she hadn't been so watchful and caring of me and how I learn, I don't know where I would be today in that regard. This shows how much she really pays attention to her students and loves her job. I want to mention Miss Baller because she's been such an advocate for me in my life. Thank you so much, Miss Baller, for always being there and devoting so much time to helping me, and for being an awesome 8th grade math teacher. Lastly, I want to thank Victoria, my Latin and social studies teacher. What she does for the students here is unbelievable. No matter what, she always challenges us to do more and prepared us for the future. Anyone who's been taught by her clearly knows how dedicated she is and how much she loves her job. Whether it's playing British and Roman history dating games, the endless papers of notes that she personally types up for us, or how much time in her life she gives for the students here. I can guarantee that anyone thinks that they've had a class with a great teacher. You have no idea what a great teacher is. They're nothing compared to Victoria. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for making me look forward to class and seeing you every day. So to sadly end my time here with you today, I ask you to always remember that if you work hard and do what you love, you will grow up to be a well-rounded and passionate person. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good summer. I would like to introduce my good friend and classmate, Elliot Kloss.
Hey guys. Okay, so I know you guys have listened to a lot of speeches and you have a lot to go, so I'll try to make this reasonable. I'm not going to talk about the roller coaster or the rocket ship that middle school has been. Rather than talk about what happened during my time at Emerson, I'd like to talk about what effect the core of Emerson, the people here, have had on me. Emerson has great facilities like this Arts and Innovation Center right here, but that's not why any of us attended here. We attended here for the Tim Wilsons who would take us out to the Nature Center and entertain our dreams of a hydroelectric generator that would run a stream through the area. The Victoria Scotts who would spend hours and hours and so many hours proofing our rough drafts and pointing out every little flaw but making memes on them to keep it light. The John Hubers who will just sit down with you and talk about anything on your mind. You guys are the reason we came here, and you guys are the reason that we stayed here. Every single teacher here is smart and intelligent enough to have a career that has far more glamour, makes far more money, and takes a lot less patience. Somewhere along the way, you made a choice to spend your career as an educator, and, well, I can't really understand the endless drive and passion that choice must take. I'm eternally grateful to all of you who have made it. Okay, so on the first day of 6th grade, my first day as a student here at Emerson, Mr. Seymour had us write a poem. Bear with me here. Wake up, line break, lowercase. No, want to go back to sleep. That pattern continues throughout the poem. Get up, a lot harder than it seems. Get ready, wandering around the house in a daze. In car, excited, nervous, scared. At school, is this bag really that heavy? Ow. Yup. To locker, really starting to hate this bag. To class, what do I bring? In class, line break, uppercase, home. So when I first pulled that poem back up, I rolled my eyes a bit, and rightfully so. It's pretty bad, and it's sappy and all that. But I do agree with that little nervous, unconfident, scared kid. Even then, I felt welcomed here. I felt comfortable, and I felt at home. Thank you for that. I would now like to introduce my good friend, Mira Leonard.
sum up 3 years at Emerson in one speech. In fact, I probably wrote this intro 6 or 7 times before I came up with something I was happy with. What number could be possibly used to summarize middle school? It can't be the days, because every day felt so short that there's no way the number could be accurate. They say time flies when you're having fun, and that's a prime example. It can't be the assignments, because homework was such an unimportant middle school. I mean, I'm not saying don't do your homework. I'd rather not get the mic turned off from me right now. But there was so much else to do, so much else to think about, that it never became something to be stressed over. It can't be the orchestra concerts, because even though music was such an important part of my time here at Emerson, the concerts weren't what made it important. Not by a long shot. It was the rehearsals, the solo and ensembles, and all the little moments. These little moments were truly the only way to sum up Emerson. The number of times my instrument was played left-handed, like a guitar with my feet, or whatever else I could possibly think of. The number of times I stopped running in gym class as soon as I was out of Bill's view. The number of times I pretended to do homework at lunch to hang out with my friends. The number of times I walked into my first period classroom at exactly 8 o'clock. These things made Emerson come alive for me in a way my old school made impossible. When I first came to Emerson in 6th grade, I struggled a bit at the beginning. At my old school, we had to memorize things and spit them back out. When did this happen? Who did this? But then I walked into social studies in 6th grade, and I had Miss Delay, and she had wows. And I would sit down with these things, and I would just blank, because they didn't work like that. They were, why would someone do this? What led them to? What else could they have done? And I sat down and I stared at it, and I'm thinking, 6th grade me is thinking, she didn't tell me the answer. What's the answer? And I struggled with that for about a trimester and got very bad grades on all the wows, because it took me a while to adjust. And I think this made me very grateful for this opportunity to learn like this. Why did this happen instead of who did it? And it also encouraged me to think about it way beyond the assignments and the homework. I thought about how history repeats itself and what we were learning and how it was repeating in modern times. I continued to think about it way past my homework's due date, and the homework didn't become the important part anymore. I'm gonna go a little off script here, so bear with me. I am a poet, as a lot of you out here know, and like my friend Elliot, I'm going to talk about one of my poems. And I actually wrote this in intercession, and it was called The End of the World. The first verse in this poem was, I was in 5th grade, and middle school was looming, and it was the end of the world. It was really hard to switch schools. I mean, I was happy at my old school, and I had friends, and I was scared. I was scared out of my mind to switch schools and come to a place like this. But it became home, and maybe a trimester at the most into 6th grade, I realized this, and I realized that this was the right thing to do, and I would have been so unhappy if I had stayed at my old school. Emerson has become my home, and it truly took me that long to truly realize this. The last verse in this poem was, now I'm in 8th grade, and high school's looming, and it's the end of the world. I wish I could say that I have gotten over that, but no, it's still pretty accurate. And it still feels a little bit just the same as it did in 5th grade. This kind of reset again, and the whole starting over, but this time it's a good thing. And I'm scared out of my mind, and I know it, but it's a good thing, and I can realize it. The 3 years I've spent at Emerson have been the best years of my life, and Emerson truly gave me a chance to live up to my potential and gave me the support where I needed help getting there. No amount of things could possibly encompass this. My fellow students, families, and staff, I can't thank you enough for welcoming me into this community and letting me thrive. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, and goodbye. I'd now like to introduce my good friend, Gabby Teichman. Emerson, I've grown both academically and mentally from the support of my teachers and peers. From learning to share with Sig to the Roman Empire with Victoria, my empathy and my knowledge have truly expanded my horizons for the future. And though I leave Emerson for high school, my heart will remain here with my younger friends and my favorite teachers. I've been looking forward to graduation ever since kindergarten. I still remember 8th graders standing on the stage. How big and scary they were. I thought it would never be me. And now I stand here before you, the not so big and not so scary 8th grader. Earlier this year, I wanted nothing more to do than graduate and move on to high school. I thought that I would have enough time to spend with my friends and hang out, and we were going to be a close-knit community. The truth is this year was the fastest of them all. I was sure I wasn't going to cry at the end of the year, but now I know I am. Time flew by too fast, and I wish I had more time to spend here. I will miss Emerson more than I can say. I look back at my Emerson years with fond memories, and I feel relieved to spend one more summer here. I want to finish by thanking every one of my wonderful administrators, teachers, and staff, and my friends who helped me write this speech. I especially wanted to thank Rob, who always supported me, even though he joked about strangling us. Tim, who taught not just science, but how to be a good student. Brian Seymour, who made me laugh when learning how to write, and Eddie for teaching the elements of algebra, and Mrs. Cohen, who supported my artistic talents and always had a place for my friends and I to stay. I finally wanted to give a huge thank you to my mom and dad for sending me to Emerson and supporting me throughout my time. Thank you. I would now like to introduce my good friend, Julian Toogood.
Hello, everyone. While I was writing my graduation speech, I thought it would be easy. I thought it would go smoothly. Instead, I sat down at my computer and came up with nothing. So instead of your typical graduation speech, I decided to try something a little bit different. Today, I'll be telling you about what it means to be an Emerson student. What exactly does it mean to be an Emerson student? Some people may tell you that Emerson is a school for rich people, or only geniuses go to Emerson. As many of you know, this is not true. Emerson is a school where students are not only gifted and talented, but are also kind, respectful, and passionate about what they do. In my 9 years here, I've noted this in all its glory. From our innocent days in kindergarten, we students have been taught not only how to go above and beyond what is expected, we've been given the foundation for a successful future. As students here, we may not immediately notice what happens at Emerson that is different from other schools, but after a while, we begin to perceive some of the things we've been taught since the very beginning. Some things just happen and we don't even notice. Little things like holding the door or listening in class seem so natural to us that we rarely even consider not doing them. In my 9 years here, acts of kindness and respect are so common that I've noticed more frequently when they don't happen. You all are amazing. For this, I thank you. To the adults in the room, without you, none of us would be the same people we are today. Every single one of you has helped us to grow in some way, whether in the classroom or out of it. Every parent and teacher here has helped to nurture talented and caring students. If it weren't for your continued support, this place simply wouldn't be the same. For this, I thank you. In my 9 years here, I've experienced many things, from shenanigans with my friends at lunch, to insanely long research papers, to fun band concerts, to musicals unlike anything I've ever seen performed at a middle school. I'm going to miss all of it dearly. Thank you, Emerson. Next up, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Kate Weiser.
So last summer when it was early July, one of my best friends who just graduated from here asked me if I was going to make a speech when I graduated. I scoffed and told her that of course I would. Later on Halloween, she asked me again about the speech, and I said no. I didn't want to cry on stage, which will probably still happen. Then in March, I was watching a TV show with some of my friends, and all the girls are going off to college, and of course it's very emotional. One of the girls was talking to all of her friends, and she quoted the classic Winnie the Pooh. I decided then that I was going to speak so I could say the quote. Unlike a lot of my friends, I have no recollection of the first day of kindergarten. What I do remember is missing my mom and crying a lot, and worrying about if my drawing of a duck actually looked like a duck. There is this one memory I have, though, that's clear as day. Marcia, my kindergarten teacher, held up a small Hello Kitty toy that was probably from McDonald's, and she asked if it belonged to any of us, and my hand shot up in the air. Spoiler alert, it was not mine. So I have to thank my family and my teachers, because I definitely wouldn't be where I'm standing right now if I didn't have their constant support. Our teachers might be the most important people to thank. Not only did they wonderfully educate us and prepare us for high school, but they also dealt with us all pretty well, because let's be honest, we can sometimes be terrors. A good example of this is the lionfish stickers. Yet the teachers handled us with patience and kindness and made us better people in the process. And I can't forget to thank my friends. Thank you all to the ends of the earth. Relationships like we have are miraculous. I don't know how I would have made it through these whirlwind years without you guys. Between all the hard times, inside jokes, school trips, weekend outings, exams, and everything that's been thrown at us, good and bad, we've gotten to watch each other grow. As students, as actors and actresses, as athletes, as writers, as musicians and artists, and as people. And yeah, we're all going into high school, and I think we're all scared. I know I definitely am. But something tells me that the bonds we've made, even just in this year, are gonna last. At least mine are going to, even if it's just by my sheer force of determination. So finally, to quote the wonderful Winnie the Pooh, how lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard? And before you all start clapping, I wanna ask all of my classmates to stand, clap for yourselves, and clap for each other. Thank you.
We would now like to present diplomas to the class of 2018. Elliot Algaze. Terrence Ashforth. Alexander Bauer. Thank you. Zoe Beekman. Kit Bellavin. Noah Bernstein. Adam Boucher. Jack Brienne. Aiden Bustos. Thanks. Tushar Chaudhary. Hannah Choi. Esther Cohen. M.K. Kulikin. Philip Crum. Ben Faulkner.
Thank you.
Peyton Feeney. Trevor Finnegan. Nina Gardner. Mateo Gonzalez. Olivia Guzman. Drew Gottschang. Alex Hacker. Lydia Hall. Nora Halloran. Jamal Hasunizada. Thor Helgeson. Eric Johnson. Arvid Johnson. Elliot Kluss. Mara Krupka. Anu Lot. Gwen LeBlanc. Mira Lenart. Ariana Levin. Carson Lewis. Kenichi Labazo. Andrew Ma. Jose Luis Martin. Dawson Mercer. Kira O'Connor. Sebastian Oliva.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmer.
Jacob Perlman. Amy Sanders. Julian Skifstead. Sylvie Skinecki. Simon Spoor. Nathan Stotler. Sylvie Swerdlow. Gabby Teichman. Julian Toogood. John Umbriak. Kate Weiser. Robert Yang. It is now with pleasure that I present to you the graduating class of 2018.